Hey guys, how's it going? It's Target here. Welcome back to another episode of Target Talks, where I take questions from you guys on YouTube and Twitter and give you the best answers I can. I don't answer every single question, and I'll get into that a little bit here. It's one of the most popular questions I seem to be getting are, what do you think about insert team here? Not specific enough a question. If you were to say, do you consider so-and-so a rebuilding team or a competitive team next year, I will answer that question. But I'm not going to answer what do you think about this team. It's a little bit too vague. If you could be a little bit more specific with your question, I will definitely do it. All right? Now, also, guys, the Twitter questions. What the hell's going on? There aren't any Target Talks Twitter questions out there. So I need more. I've got 2. That's it this time from Twitter, from the last time I did a video. So, 2. Come on, guys. I need more. Get on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Hashtag Target Talks. You will be answered first in every single video. So think about that when you're putting in your questions. It's nice to have YouTube, but I want to try and have that Twitter out there too. It's important for everybody to keep on the same page. So, first question today comes from @Mr. Tristan. His is a 2-parter. It says, will you friend me on Xbox Live? All right, question number 1. Mr. Tristan, if I play with you online, we happen to be in a lobby or something like that, and we play a few games together, and you're really good, and I'm really good, and we play really well together, and you think that that's something you want to do later, then yes, I will friend you on Xbox Live. I hate to break it to people, but you can only fit so many people on your friends list. And if I have it filled up with people that follow me on YouTube, which is nice to have, and I appreciate it, believe me, then I'm going to have message after message after message after message of, hey, you want to play, invitations to play games, so on and so forth. I would be opening up a huge can of worms. I would literally have to go through probably hundreds of messages a week, and that's not something that I'm ready to take on. So, I mean, obviously you can still send me messages on Xbox Live, and I do try to get to those ones when I can. Unfortunately, Xbox Live is not as easy to respond as, say, Twitter or YouTube, but I will answer some, but I'm not going to friend you. I'm sorry, Mr. Tristan. It's not you. It's everybody. It's not anybody specific. His second question is a real question. The first one's a real question, but this one's hockey related. If you had to pick the best potential Oilers young gun, who would it be? I don't think there's a question. It's Taylor Hall. The kid's on fire. He's got so many points in so few games on a team that really is not that strong. This isn't junior hockey, guys. In junior hockey, you'll find that the one player can carry the whole team. You know, that's the way it is. That's the way it always has been. But when it comes to the NHL, it's impossible for that one kid to have a great year and the rest of the team have a shit year. It's so hard. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's so hard. An NHL team, really, they feed off each other. They need good players to play with. So Taylor Hall has been creating opportunities like crazy for the Oilers, and it's showing up on the points. His plus-minus, obviously, is not great. Better than Ovechkin's, though. Way better than Ovechkin's. All right. Next question comes from Ryan Murray, 81. Do you like any other sports other than hockey and soccer? And if so, what's your favorite team? Well, I watch football, but only Canadian football. I'm not a huge American football fan. It's a fast-paced game, and I mean, it is a good game. There's no doubt about it. But growing up here in Edmonton, we had the Edmonton Eskimos, and the Edmonton Eskimos are probably one of the greatest franchises in the Canadian Football League, the CFL. For those Americans that are really familiar with it, the Edmonton Eskimos have produced some real, CFL or NFL greats like Warren Moon. Like Warren Moon used to play for the Edmonton Eskimos before he played in the NFL. And Warren Moon was an elite star on both levels. So, I mean, the CFL is not something really to be laughed at. It is a lot. I mean, a lot of people make fun of it. But, in terms of other sports besides that, the Edmonton Eskimos are my favorite football team. My favorite soccer team, if I had to choose one, I don't know. I couldn't even choose a favorite soccer team. I don't follow it close enough. I follow the national teams pretty closely, and I'll cheer for Germany for sure when it comes to that. Germany's number one for me. But in terms of other sports, I don't watch baseball. Not a huge baseball fan. I don't watch golf. Don't watch golf. Way too boring. I'll watch tennis from time to time when it's on. It's always entertaining to watch tennis. I don't have a favorite player in tennis, though. Maybe that Canadian. What's his name? Milos Raonic. Is it Milos Raonic? Yeah, Milos Raonic. He's, that's Does that sound right? Raonic. That sounds right to me. Like I don't follow it that much. Tennis, I guess that's it. Don't watch basketball. Have no interest in basketball. Pretty much just hockey for me all the time. Soccer sometimes, depending on what's going on. So I hope that answers your question there. Next, we'll move on to questions from other people now on YouTube. This first one comes from Hansa Zud. What do you think about Vancouver? Now, he also adds on the end, will they completely rebuild and sell the Sedins? See, he's added a little bit of an extra on there, so it gives me a tangent to go on. If I say, what do you think about Vancouver? I could say anything. But you want to know something specific. I know it, because you're asking that question. You know, you want to know what about the Vancouver Canucks I would agree with you or disagree with you. You need to give me a point to work off. So he says, will they completely rebuild and sell the Sedins? I don't know. That's a good question. Will they completely rebuild and sell the Sedins? It depends. I mean, they just shipped out their goaltending. They have no goaltending. They have the Sedins. They have some defense, and they can still be competitive guarding. They just need to get a couple extra pieces. The Vancouver's not down and out, guys, and I know I've said it before. And I'd love for Vancouver to be down and out. This offseason is going to be crucial for them. Their window of opportunity is just about slam shut. They maybe have one, max 2 seasons left where they could make a competitive push for the playoffs. They certainly aren't up at the top of the ranks anymore. They're not number 1, 2, or 3. They're going to be pushing for a playoff spot in the Western Conference. Look for them to be in a wild card spot either this year, well, probably not even this year, but next year or the year after that. But that's the max for Vancouver, and their window is closing. So if Vancouver's smart, they decide to rebuild now. Make that conceded decision that the rebuild is the way to go. Because you still have pieces of value. The Sedins are still both valuable players. Incredibly high elite level players. Not having a great season by any stretch of the imagination, but they have lots of value there. So Vancouver needs to take advantage of that. If they want to rebuild, now is the time to do it. When your older players are at their prime and still have trade value, because after that, it's a downward slope. The Sedin's value is going to go down because they're starting to age, and you know what? Look at Martin Saint-Louis. The guy is old. I mean, he's not old. He's an older player, but he's still producing at such a high rate. I mean, last year he won the Art Ross. I won't see the Sedins doing that in 2 to 3 years. They could do that next year in the right circumstances. Now, obviously they've won the Art Ross before, so it's not a stretch for them to win it again. But they're not exactly the type of player who will play well at an older age. So Vancouver needs to move them now, and they need to make a decision as well. Do you currently have, within your organization, a solid piece to rebuild around? Is that currently in your system? I think the answer is no. Because there's 2 things elite teams build around. 1 is goaltending, and 2 is defense. And Vancouver got rid of goaltending, so I don't think that they have that piece in play, and elite goaltenders don't just fall in your lap every single day. It's not the way the game works. You've got 2 goaltenders per team. That's 60 goaltenders working the NHL, and we could probably say 5 or 6 are elite goaltenders. 5 or 6 teams have an elite goaltender. One of them is not Vancouver anymore, and I seriously doubt 5 or 6 of those teams are willing to deal that elite goaltender. So when you think about that and what's available, Vancouver needs to decide what they're going to rebuild around. If they decide they're going to keep one of the players they currently have in their organization, they need to keep him, and they need to work something with him. I believe that player would be Edler. Alexander Edler could be that franchise defenseman. Not franchise defenseman, the Vancouver franchise defenseman. The guy they say, it's on your shoulders now. You are going to be shouldering the load of the defensive core. You're responsible for making the young guys get better. And then Vancouver needs to take the Sedins, trade them away for some prospects, some picks, and possibly even another player that could work with another veteran player that kind of could complement Alexander Edler on the offensive end. Doesn't need to be a top-line player, maybe a second-line player. Now, they also have Kessler. But I think Kessler, if you decide that you're going to keep Edler, I think you need to decide to keep Kessler too. Just the Sedins. Just send the Sedins packing. You've got Bo Horvat that could get better. But I think that they need to make that decision now. All right, I'm trying to wrap this question up. Will they completely rebuild and sell the Sedins? I don't think they're going to. So for you Vancouver fans that are Sedin fans, I don't think that they're going to. For if you're a smart GM, you trade the Sedins during the offseason. Prior to the draft, I would say. And if not, definitely during the offseason, you get rid of those Sedins, all right? So let's move on here. That was like 10 minutes spent on 3 questions, so I want to keep going. JJ Rules 5 asks, do you think you'll ever make it to 1 million subs? Let me drink some water before I get into this. Do I think I'll ever get to 1 million subs? The million sub mark truly is a point in a YouTuber's career where you realize that you can manage this. This is something that I could do every day of my life. Now, I need to realistically look at something. Who would people consider the very best YouTuber when it comes to NHL? All right. I think without a doubt, well, I shouldn't even say the best, because there's some really awesome NHL YouTubers out there that are undiscovered, or those that there's like a big gap in threshold. So, or there's a big gap in the difference between the super rich. All right. Let me take a look. But obviously, the number one that everybody would agree with is Johnny Superbman, 2BC Productions, okay? He's the best of the best in terms of the furthest up there in the NHL world. How many subscribers does 2BC have? About 110,000. Not that many when you think about it. The NHL video game nut is a hard one to crack, especially if you want to get to 1 million. So that's why I've expanded my channel. I've gotten more out there other than just the hockey. I've got, GTA and Titanfall and Call of Duty. I'm trying to stay on top of that because I know that I can't make it to 1 million subs with just NHL. It's not going to happen. But that's not to say I'll never make it there. Maybe I will. I mean, I got a message the other day that said, or a tweet the other day that said, I can't decide who I like more, at Target Odd 18 or at 2BC Productions. That was kind of like one of the better compliments I've had, because somebody has now put me next to the best NHL YouTuber, and I'm just saying it based on subscribers. He's the most popular NHL YouTuber. Not me and Bacon Country. Bacon Country is a great NHL YouTuber, by the way. Sorry, Bacon, if you're watching this, you're awesome. But like, in terms of subscriber differential, he's got about 100,000 more than Bacon and about 105,000 more than me. So when you think about that difference, I would say Bacon Country is probably, in my opinion, by popularity, the second most popular. I mean, you've got Halo Diego and a few other guys out there, but the gap is still huge. And I think Bacon Country is probably better than Johnny Superman, in my opinion, because of he's a different type of character. He brings the trolling to the NHL, and he's not a mean troll. He doesn't ruin the game for everybody. If he's skating around as a goalie, he's still making saves, you know? He's just hilarious. He's got such a good delivery. Sorry, I don't know. It sounds like I got like a hard-on for Bacon Country, but he's a cool guy, and he's a good friend of mine, so thank you to Bacon Country for doing what you do. But anyway, do I think I'll ever make it to 1 million subs? Fingers crossed, because I'd rather do this for the rest of my life. Next question, moving along. Wow, I'm eating time here. John Winchester, who do you think has the best logo of any time? Anytime? I gotta go with the Oilers. I love the Oilers logo. If it was jerseys, I would still choose them. But the best logo, if it wasn't the Oilers, can I sarcastically say the Burger King logo from the Los Angeles Kings? Oh man, that's terrible. Best logo. It's one of those ones that's not really asked that often. I gotta stick with Edmonton. It's always gonna be Edmonton. Sorry. And who will be rebuilding in the offseason? A lot of teams, man. But I mean, Buffalo's already started. It'll be interesting if Vancouver does. All right. Well, it's hard to say who's gonna come out and say we're rebuilding. In the last little while, only 3 teams have done that. Edmonton, Calgary, and Buffalo are the only 3 teams in about the last 8 years that have admitted that they're rebuilding. That's a big number right there. 3 out of 30 times 8 have admitted they're rebuilding. So, kind of crazy. All right. How old were you when you got your first girlfriend? Another sip of water, I think, is required for this one. First girlfriend. Jesus. Who the hell was my first girlfriend? I mean, like serious girlfriend? First serious girlfriend was probably in junior high. I was grade 8, I guess. Her name was Carrie. Yeah. But first, if you were to count first girlfriend, oh my goodness. Like, yeah, I'd count my first serious girlfriend as junior high. So grade 7 or grade 8, whatever, however old that makes you, because you're about, I guess about 15, 14 or 15, 14 or 15 when my first serious girlfriend, 14 or 15. That's a good age. I think that's appropriate. It's good for anybody. All right, Chris Vorath asks the most important question of all time: tits or ass? And he says it apparently determines my character. I don't know. I'm definitely a tits guy. Sorry, kids. Cover your ears. Earmuffs. Tits for sure. I don't see the draw for the ass as much as some dudes do. I don't know. It's a little weird for me. You shit out of that thing. That's just what that comes to mind. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Tits are right up front. You can't help but look at it like you can still appreciate a good ass. I'm sorry. You can still appreciate a good ass. But the tits right up. Yeah, tits for sure. Does that answer your question, Chris Vorath? And what does that say about my character? Maybe you can follow that up with a little bit of a thing. Does that make me like, I don't know. What does that mean? Or am I a lesser of a man that I like tits? A real man should like ass? Like, now I'm overthinking it? I don't know. Chris, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight, Chris. Thanks a lot. Ethan MC had a question in the previous one. He's got one here now. When will you do another GM? We're doing it right now. All right, why Muriel asks, do you think Claude Giroux should be included in the Hart Trophy talks? Absolutely. Claude Giroux, I mean, he may not be in the top echelon of point getters, but Claude Giroux has put together quietly a very solid season. And, I mean, Philadelphia's not a team that I get to watch as often. They're on the eastern side, East Coast, and I don't subscribe to NHL Game Center Live. I have enough hockey in my life to not watch every single game. But, having said that, if anybody remembers where Philadelphia was in the first 15 to 20 games, bottom of the pile. Everybody's like, oh, Philadelphia, what's wrong with them? They need to figure out their goaltending situation. They need to find a real defenseman. I mean, they were talking about getting rid of Braden Coburn, the Shens. Who else was on the way out? What the hell's his name? Why can't I think of his name? The young guy. Starts with a C. Couturier, Sean Couturier. They're talking about getting rid of him. No. Claude Giroux has taken this team from bottom of the barrel to top 3 in their division. They're going to be... Whoa, geez, I'm hitting everything now. I'm flailing. I wish I had a video going, but my arms are like flailing when I talk. But I got a few more questions. I got to try and wrap this up. Claude Giroux should be in the talks. Absolutely. Next question comes from Keaton Matheson. Do you go to many Oilers games throughout the season? Typically, yes, but this year I have absolutely refused to pay a dime on those sacks of shit. They're not worth it right now. There is absolutely no way. They've taken enough of my money in the last 7 years to last me a lifetime, where I'm getting shit hockey when I know I'm getting shit hockey when I go to a game. Why would I pay for that? It's ridiculous. I mean, last year I went to a couple games. The year before that, I went to a few more. I mean, the last time I actually went to a bunch of games in a season were the playoffs in 2006. I went to like 6 games during those playoffs. 2006, we're talking like 8 years. So, no, I don't go to that many games because they're shit. Plain and simple. All right, next question. What's your favorite California team? Really? Oh my goodness. I got to choose between San Jose, Los Angeles, and Anaheim. Now, I'm not jumping on the LA train like the entire world did when they won the Stanley Cup. So, LA's out. Anaheim's a good team. They kind of piss me off. I gotta go with San Jose because out of all the California teams, the ones that have paid their due the most are the San Jose Sharks. I mean, they don't have a cup to show for themselves. LA has a cup now. Anaheim has a cup. I think that it's time that San Jose gets a cup too. San Jose is a team that's been perennial in terms of its elite status. So I've got to say San Jose on that one. They're my favorite California team. One more sip of water. I'm dying here. Once I get about to the 20-minute mark, I'm starting to run out of fume. Start running on fumes, run out of gas. All right, 2 more questions left. Next one is Mario Mazzotta. He says, what did you want your career to be when you were in high school? My career, I've always wanted to be involved in law enforcement since I was in like grade 5 or 6. So I pursued that dream from a very young age. And then in high school, I just focused on it even more. And then in college, and then actually got into the job. So, I mean, I guess I knew way before. I wanted to be that in high school and before. And he says, I was also wondering if you were in forensics, Edmonton, because that's what I want to go into. I am sorta, actually. It's kind of funny that you picked that area. Now, I should mention to anybody that wants to do this career, and I'm not trying to turn it away or turn anybody off of the forensic portion, but in order to become a forensics officer, you actually have to be a police officer. It's not like CSI. You don't see, just being in the lab all the time. You're a police officer. You have to spend 5 years on the street doing beats. So you have to do minimum 5 years there. And then from that point, it's a very competitive field. It's very difficult to get into forensics. In fact, most of the people that are in forensics have been on the police service for about 10 years plus. So I think the youngest one that's in there is probably at about 12 years right now. Like 12 years in the police service. And the oldest one has been there for probably about 40, 45 years. So, I mean, then that's just like constables. That's not even sergeants or staff sergeants. That's 40, 45 years as a constable. Forensics is, I work very closely with all the forensic officers here in Edmonton. I'm not a forensic officer, so don't get me wrong. I am within that field, though. I work very closely with all the CSIs, or the forensic officers is what they are. And I can tell you it's a demanding job. There is no position within the police service that you can be fired for making a false identification of a person. And what a false identification of a person is a fingerprint comparison. So basically what they'll do is they'll take a crime scene fingerprint lift, and they'll compare that against a known set of fingerprints that we have on file with our AFIS system. AFIS is Automated Fingerprint Identification System. So what they'll do is to compare those. And if they make a false identification, you're out of the unit. You're not fired from the police, but you're out of the unit. No other unit within the police service, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, RCMP, any other police service in Canada, do you get kicked out of your unit based on that small mistake. And it's so easy to make if you just rush. So, I mean, I don't know. I think there's been one documented case in the last 10 years where that has happened. So, I mean, you get pretty good at it. I've never made a false ID myself, so no worries there. I'm good to go. I have caught actually a couple forensic officers making that mistake, and I have nipped that in the bud before it got too far and they lose their jobs. But that's what it's all about, working as a team. If you want to do forensic, go for it, man. It's a great career. It's not as glamorous as it looks on CSI. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you guys want to hear more about this, I can definitely tell you a lot more about the world of policing if you want to know more. But forensics, very demanding, very demanding. You got to do a course in Ottawa. I believe that lasts about a month. You got to do a number of tests, including a mock trial where you go up against a group of forensics officers pretending to be a court. And it's intense. It's not easy. And there's an understudy. There's a certain amount of things you have to complete. There's book studies. It doesn't sound as fun as it does on TV. I'll tell you that right now. It's very intense. And having worked very closely with these guys, I'll tell you right now, for a guy that wants to be in law enforcement, is involved in law enforcement, I don't want to do that position. I don't want to be a forensic officer. I'll tell you that right now. It's not my way. It's not my thing. If it's your thing, go for it. But it's a lot. It's a lot to do, and it's not that rewarding. Okay? Sorry. I mean, it's fun to get the bad guy. You are the guy that catches the bad guy after the fact with the evidence and the blood and the fingerprints. But it's not as intense. It's not like you're going out there like what's David Caruso. You're not going out like David Caruso and grabbing these guys. No, you don't make the arrest. You tell some other officer to go pick the guy up. You just pick shit up from a crime scene and then go to court every day of your life. Okay? So if you want to go to court every day, which is not fun, by all means. I'm not trying to flush the forensic portion down the drain. It's still a very good career, and there's guys that have been doing it for many, many years now. I think the longest serving member within forensics is about 35 years. So if that tells you anything about the position. It's one of the most coveted units within the police service. That is true. It's just not for me. One last question here. Let me just take a drink. It's very tame. It's not as intense as forensics. My question is two things. Number one, do you think that an NHL team could ever get to Saskatchewan? And number two, who would it be? Actually, it's funny. I was talking about this with my wife the other day. Was a possibility of an NHL team in Saskatchewan. And I hate to break it to you guys, but I don't think a team in Saskatchewan will ever happen. Well, maybe, but your population needs to grow by about 500,000. You need to have one of your cities, Saskatoon or Regina, up to about 1 million people before you're going to be having an NHL team. Well, let's say 700,000, because that's about where Winnipeg is, right? So you need about 250,000 more people. I don't know how many are in Winnipeg or Regina, but you need more people in your city to be able to afford it. So I just don't think it's going to happen in the near future. I'd say you're at least 10 years away, if ever. And who would it be? It all depends. At the time, like if I'm thinking time-wise, it's going to be a ways away, guys, all right? So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I've been rambling for too long. We're on to about 25 minutes now. So I'll leave it at that. Don't forget to put your comments down below. Follow me on Twitter and ask my questions. Ask the questions on Twitter. Hashtag Target Talks. I do those ones first. As you can see, at Mr. Tristan, at Ryan Murray 81, those two guys got their questions in first, even though they asked them after some of the guys on YouTube. So get in there. Get in there. Ask one on YouTube. Ask one on Twitter. Do both. Who cares? I'll answer them all. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Until next time, I'm Target Audience, and I'll catch you guys out on the ice, out on the pitch, out on the battlefield.